look at these tables. These tables show the runs scored by two teams, Team A and Team B, over the course of a cricket match. That is, in different balls, what are the runs scored by Team A and what are the runs scored by Team B. Now, your task is to analyze these tables and tell me what do you infer from these tables. Well, are you scared? Yes. Actually, it is very difficult to analyze these tables in the current form. So what do? We plot this information on a graph. Now, if you watch cricket, you must have come across something like this. This is a graphical representation of the runs scored by two teams, that is the red team and the blue team, over the course of the match. It contains a lot of information. This graph tells us that till this point, that is till the 100th ball, the red team was lagging behind the blue team. But after that, the red team leaded and in the end, it finally won. So what we are trying to point out is that graphs are visual representation of data and they help us in analyzing data in a more convenient manner by presenting them visually. Here, just by having a glance at the graph, we can say a lot about what happened during the course of the match as compared to the huge tables which we saw. Now let us plot the runs scored by one of these teams in different overs. So here on the x-axis, this horizontal axis or the x-axis, we plot the overs. And on the y-axis, we plot the runs. Now what if we want to calculate the run rate of this team at any point, say after the fourth over? So how do we read this graph? Let's see. So I want to calculate the run rate after the fourth over. For that, I want to see how many runs are scored after the fourth over. Now since overs are represented on the x-axis, so this is the fourth over. What is the point on the graph corresponding to this fourth over? We draw a line from the x-axis to the graph. So this point on the graph corresponds to the fourth over. And how do we find the runs scored at the fourth over? Since this point corresponds to the fourth over and runs are measured on the y-axis, so what is the point on the y-axis corresponding to this point? Again, we consider the straight line and this is the point on the y-axis corresponding to this line. So, after fourth over, 24 runs are scored. And what is the run rate? Run rate is runs per over. So 24 runs divided by 4 overs. So run rate is 6 runs per over. Now this is an important concept, not only in relation to cricket, but in relation to all the graphs. In graphs, we have something called the slope of the graph. Slope of the graph is given by change in y coordinate divided by change in x coordinate. It is also given by rise by run. How do we calculate the slope of the graph? Let us see. We take 2 points on the graph. So say we take this point, this is point A, and we take this point, this is point B. Note that both of these points have to lie on the graph. Now, as a rule, we always move from left to right. So here, A is to the left of B, so we move from A to B. Now, in moving from A to B, what is the rise? That is, what is the change in y coordinate? From A to B, the change in y coordinate, that is the vertical distance, is 24. So rise is 24. And in moving from A to B, what is the run? That is, what is the change in x coordinate in moving from A to B? So in moving from A to B, this is the run. This horizontal distance is the run. So it is equal to 4. So rise by run is equal to 24 by 4, that is 6. So slope of this graph is equal to 6. So this is the rule we follow for calculating the slope of a graph. Now what if I want to find out the slope of this graph? Let us try out. Again, we take 2 points. Now which point should I take? We take the points which make our calculations simplest. So I'll take this point as my point A and this point as point B. Now we can clearly see that B lies midway between 8 and 10. So B must be 9. Since B lies midway between 8 and 10. Now we move from left to right, that is from A to B. So slope is equal to rise by run. In moving from A to B, what is the rise? That is change in y coordinate. The rise is this. But it is actually a fall because we are moving like this. So it is not a rise, it is a fall from 9 to 0. So it is a fall of 9 points. So we say that rise is minus 9. A fall of 9 points indicates a rise of minus 9 points. And what is the run in moving from A to B? When we move from A to B, the horizontal distance covered is again from 0 to 9. So it is 9. So the slope of this graph is minus 1. So this is a graph with a negative slope. This is a graph with a negative slope. When there is a fall, we fix a negative sign with the rise. And we always take the run to be positive because we are moving from left to right. Now, what is the implication of a graph with a negative slope? We know that slope is defined as change in y coordinate by change in x coordinate. And if the slope of a graph is negative, what does it mean? That there is a negative relation between change in y coordinate and change in x coordinate. Thus, we can say that as x coordinate increases, y coordinate decreases, then only the change in x coordinate will be negatively related to the change in y coordinate. So whenever we have a graph with a negative slope, we can say that as x coordinate increases, the y coordinate decreases. And this is what a graph with a negative slope means. Now we have these two lines. And what do you have to say about slope of these two lines? Let us compare their slopes. First, we find the slope of this red line. So again, we take 2 points. Let us take this point as point A and let us take the point corresponding to 4, that is this point, as point B. So what is the rise in moving from A to B? In moving from A to B, the rise is 8. So the slope of red line is rise, which is equal to 8. And what is the run in moving from A to B? Run, that is the horizontal distance, it is 4. So the slope of red line is 8 by 4, that is 2. Now what is the slope of the blue line? We take A as one of the points and this point as B. So for blue line, when we move from A to B, what is the rise? The rise is this much, that is 4. So there is a rise of 4 points in moving from A to B. And what is the run? The run is this. This is the horizontal distance. So it is 4. So the slope of blue line is 1. So what do we see? We see that the slope of red line is higher than that of the slope of blue line. Red line is steeper than the blue line. So we see that the slope of red line is higher than that of the blue line. And why is it so? Because for the same change in x coordinate, the change in y coordinate of red line is more than that of blue line. So it is, this part is extra. So the change in y coordinate for red line is higher than that of the change in y coordinate for blue line for the same change in x coordinate. Thus, the slope of red line is higher than that of the blue line. And we say that red line is steeper than the blue line. Now let us compare the slopes of these two lines. First we calculate the slope for red line. This is point A, and we take another point here. This is point B. So in moving from A to B, what is the rise? Rise is actually of -2 because it is a fall. In moving from A to B, the y coordinate is decreasing, so it is a fall. So we say that there is a rise of -2. So slope is rise by run. And what is the run in moving from A to B? The change in x coordinate is from 0 to 4. So the run is 4. The slope of this line is -half. What about the blue line? We take A as one of the point and point corresponding to 4 as B here. So the slope of blue line is given by rise by run again, and the rise in moving from A to B is from 9 to 5, that is -4. What is the run in moving from A to B? The run, that is the change in horizontal coordinate, it is from 0 to 4, that is 4. So the slope of blue line is -1. Now which line has a higher slope here? We see that the red line has a higher slope. So can we say that the red line is steeper than the blue line? No. We cannot say that the red line is steeper than the blue line because we look at the absolute value of slope. So we ignore the signs and only consider the magnitude. The magnitude of blue line is higher than the magnitude of the slope of red line. So we say that blue line is steeper than the red line. Now let's answer a question here. Find the slope of this graph. For finding the slope of this graph, we can take any 2 points. So let me take this point and this point. Slope is defined as change in y coordinate by change in x coordinate, and it is also given by rise by run. What is the rise in moving from left to right? That is in moving from A to B. There is a fall of 20 points. So the rise is -20. What is the run in moving from A to B? The run is of 10 points. So this is the run. So slope is -20 by 10, that is -2. So you may have taken some other 2 points, but as long as your answer is -2, you have got it correct.